And welcome to this edition of the Baseball Talk Radio Show. We're now listener supported through our Patreon website. It's patreon.com/baseball talk. Sponsor the show, and here's our next edition. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Baseball Talk Radio Show. We're talking all about our favorite sport, and that, of course, is baseball. And Gary Mack, it was baseball award seasons, one of my favorite times of the year.
It certainly was, Rich, and just so the people know, you sound terrific tonight because you just got a brand new microphone and it looks good. Good luck, and gonna really pop the show up more.
Well, thank you very much, Gary. Yes, I got the Heil PR40 mic, so that's why I'm leading off the show with the Patreon plug there. If you want to support the show, that would be great with me and Gary, and we'd love all of our listeners to stop by our Patreon page so we can keep upgrading the show. We had some nice guests in the last couple editions. It's going to be just me and Gary tonight talking baseball. But yeah, I hope this mic gives me years of good service.
I'm sure it will, Rich, and lots of good luck with it and good sounding with it.
Thank you, and I'm glad you have the Heil, and now I'm part of the family. I got the Heil myself.
There you go. Well, Rich, as you said, though, it is the award season time in baseball. Baseball Writers Association had their awards all week. They've been eking them out, if that's the proper terminology, on MLB Network. And I don't know if there's really been. Well, I guess there was a couple of surprises.
Yeah, and as we were talking about a little bit before the show, that one of the biggest surprises was how they released the awards. As we were saying, they did it at 6 p.m. every night, one award per night, rather, and they did it over the MLB Network. So they sort of favored MLB Network subscribers, but again, I would probably think that they should go for a wider audience, interest more people in this, and maybe give that week free for MLB Network for the people at home that don't subscribe to it. All of a sudden, here's a week free of what you're missing, so to speak, and you could check out the award shows at the same time.
Yeah, good idea, and I'm not sure whether they put it on the website either. If they streamed it live, that would be another alternative to do it. But I was just curious about the time, really, because 6 o'clock, especially here in the East Coast, a lot of people are just getting home from work. So it was kind of, I got to admit, I really didn't watch a lot of it because what are you going to do? Walk in the door and tell the wife that, I got to put on the show. That doesn't always go so good. You got to spend some time. You know what I'm saying? So I missed a lot of it, but we have the results, so that's all that matters.
Yes, indeed. And as you said, 6 o'clock is kind of a strange time. Maybe push it up to 8 o'clock, prime time. Let people watch it. Give it to them for free for that particular week. Maybe run some cool movies or something, and I guarantee you're going to increase your listenership. But the awards were announced, and of course, everybody can't win, so you're always going to have these second guessing and things like that, a little intrigue mixed in, especially with the Cy Young Award. I was reading a little bit about that with Justin Verlander not winning, and apparently before we announced the winners, apparently two writers did not vote at all for Justin Verlander, though he was one of only three contestants in the Cy Young Award. So I wonder how you do that.
Well, I don't know. And and the tweet that came from his girlfriend, one of them, Kate Upton, the lovely Kate Upton, was. Let me just say this, Rich. I can't say what she said on the family show, but I found it it disturbed me at the same time. It was a little exciting.
It intrigued you a little.
It intrigued me and made me jealous at the same time. But needless to say, it brought some controversy and some interest to the Cy Young Award, though it was after that the award was given. But
Well, you'll have to tell me after the show because I didn't hear that one. So,
okay.
since it's a family show, we will keep it in our good standing.
Well, I guess you can just imagine that she is dating Justin Verlander and certain things that they do, and she thought she was the only one doing it to him, but apparently a couple of writers did the same thing to him. So
Okay.
that was more or less what she said.
Yeah, you can't dispute that because and what else strikes me about that is if you're in a competitive city, and you could use that to your advantage to not vote for certain players, things like that. That isn't necessarily right. A couple writers were commenting after that vote that maybe these baseball writers should not be solely in charge of picking these awards anymore.
Well, it is the Baseball Writers Association's award, so I get what you're saying, and uh, I don't really would give you an argument on that, but then it gets kind of confusing though. How would they do it? I mean, maybe they should let the players vote on these things.
Yeah, and they do have a separate vote, the Players Awards. I think that takes place probably either this week or next week. There is the Players' Choice Awards, which does get released also. We'll be talking about that on a future show. But why don't we take the first, let's see, the first award show was Monday night. Why don't we talk about that first,
Okay.
if you have that?
I've got what was the first one? Was that Rookie of the Year?
First one, let's see, because I had a post on my blog over at fightingphillies.com. MLB Network was kind enough to forward me the press release for it, so I had a good idea of what was getting voted on. Monday night was Rookie of the Year.
Yeah. Well, Rookie of the Year, the American League, was Michael Fulmer of the Detroit Tigers, and of course, here in New York, some Met fans were, begrudgingly saying, "Oh, see, we got rid of him, but look, we didn't do too bad in the deal. We got Yoenis Cespedes in that deal, so you really can't complain." And congratulations, he had a good year, and something clicked with Detroit, and he had a good year, and really was probably the top guy. There wasn't too many, the other two guys were okay, but he probably was the one that stood out the most simply because he was a pitcher and the job that he did. And in the National League, Corey Seager of the Dodgers, I don't see any complaints about that one at all. Had a terrific season and really had been mentioned even for the MVP and one of the three finalists. So pretty deserving right there.
Yeah, those two were probably two of the sure thing type picks. Not too much controversy at all over that. And let's see, Tuesday night they moved on with the AL and NL Manager of the Year, and this is where it starts to get a little cloudy as far as who they picked and whether or not they had the right person. All deserving candidates, but there has to be a winner, of course. And Terry Francona of the Indians won for AL Manager of the Year. And I guess you can't really argue too much about that one.
No, the other finalists were Jeff Bannister of the Rangers. I guess you could you could make a case for him based on what Texas did this year. But as you say, Francona did the same thing for Cleveland. So you really, as I said, you can make a case, but it really not a bad pick. And the other one was Buck Showalter, and of course, nobody had picked the Orioles, and he had them in the contention and in first place for a good deal of the season. But I don't think you can really argue with the job that Francona did with Cleveland. Just a magnificent job, and boy, became one game short of the of the world title. So, yeah, I don't see a problem there with Francona.
Now, moving over to National League Manager of the Year, of course, it was Dave Roberts of the LA Dodgers. And here, I guess you could make a case for the other contenders in that. Dusty Baker with the Nationals did a good job with them. And Joe Madden, of course, the Cubs winning the World Series. Madden, just out of nowhere, joins the Cubs, and all of a sudden they're the World Series champs. But they didn't pick Joe Madden. They passed on him.
Well, that was probably the most surprising one. It's not controversial, but it was a little surprising. I thought for sure Joe Madden would have gotten it. But in reflecting back, I just wonder, he won it last year. And I think that might have hurt his chances. And let's face it, Dave Roberts came out of nowhere, really, and really did a good job with that team. I don't think anybody expected the Dodgers to be where they were, and especially since they lost Greinke and Puig wasn't playing that well and everything, and somehow he got them into the playoffs. So, Dusty Baker really, if he had a good team. I mean, he had a contending team. He just had to get him to play, and so I don't know how deserving. All of them would have been deserving. Let's put it that way. But different reasons for different things, and I could see Dave Robertson, but I was a little shocked. I thought for sure that this was the year of the Cubs. Everything is going to be Cubs, and Joe Madden didn't get it. So
yeah, that was a surprise. Kind of figured him in since he won the World Series. But as you said, maybe that did work against him with winning last year. Moving on to the next night, of course, Wednesday night at 6 p.m. again, they announced the AL Cy Young winner and the NL Cy Young winner, one of the best awards going as far as pitchers are concerned. And here's where our little controversy took place. Justin Verlander, not voted on by two of the writers in the Baseball Writers Association at all, left him on the left him off the list, and that could have cost him the award. It went to Rick Porcello.
Right, because he got the most first place votes, but Porcello got the most overall votes. So I guess it's the Electoral College versus the popular vote thing all over again here, Rich, on the baseball level. And again, all three guys were deserving of it, and I guess Porcello just kind of snuck in there. A little bit of a surprise, but it's not like he did win 20 games, I believe. So I guess the aftermath was more interesting, though, than the vote itself, Matt.
Yeah, and as you said, Porcello did not get the most first votes. He had 8 total first place votes and 18 total second place votes. Verlander actually carried the first place votes with 14, but he only had 2 second place votes. So who knows? Maybe there was a little not cohesiveness between the writers, or he had 5 third place votes. So there were some writers in there that just didn't favor Justin Verlander, and it cost him the Cy Young Award. And beyond just recognition, It's bragging rights too, a little bit.
Yeah, in some instances, it's a bonus in their contract. So, um, just got to go out next year and be good again.
Yes, indeed. Well, that was the little controversy that night. And then, of course, the following night, the MVP was announced. And I'm finally very happy with the winners of the MVP. Of course, in the American League, it was Mike Trout. And then over in the National League, Mr. Bryant from the Cubs won it.
No surprise there, Rich, but we skipped the NL Cy Young Award winner.
Oh, so, well, we'll get back to that. That's true. That was one of the that was one of the surprise picks for me. Why don't you take that one?
Well, Max Scherzer, you're going to make me say that. Scherzer.
Because I can't pronounce it.
Max Scherzer of the Nationals won the Cy Young Award, and he beat out Kyle Hendricks of the Cubs and John Lester of the Cubs. Now, I have a theory that I think that Hendricks and Lester split the vote there, and Scherzer was able to slip in. I did not really see the numbers, to be honest with you, but that happens a lot when you got two of the same teams, two guys from the same team involved in a voting like that. They will split it, and Scherzer was the recipient of that. Now, getting back to the MVP, I'm sure you're happy with your guy, Mike Trout. Some people are, think it's a little controversial. They thought maybe Mookie Betts should have won it. Had a great year, but boy, how can Mike Trout's numbers? I mean, they were talking today, and he compares with some of the greats at the age of 25. He is 25 now. And he's ahead of like home runs of Mickey Mantle, or actually ahead of Barry Bonds, I think, at this stage of the game. Just ahead in RBIs of guys, ahead of Babe Ruth in some categories at this age. Really incredible numbers. And of course, the argument could be made, well, the Angels were awful, and they would have been awful without him just as well. So how was he very valuable if his team didn't win? But I don't know. Maybe they need to have a player of the year and a most valuable player. Maybe in this day and age, most valuable player isn't the proper title for it. And of course, in the National League, Chris Bryant. I don't think there's any surprise there. A friend of mine thought Murphy might win it, but I think Bryant was the odds-on choice in the beginning before the season started, and all he had to do was have a decent enough season, which he did. Murphy was a surprise. Seager, I think getting the rookie of the year may have people had figured he was going to win the rookie of the year, so they didn't vote for him for MVP. But quite a 2 years from Mr. Bryant, a rookie of the year last year, MVP this year, and a World Series champion in 2 years in the league. What has he got to look forward to, Rich?
Yeah, and I think he was the college player of the year before he came into the Major League Baseball. So, yeah, he's had quite a trifecta in the last 3 years. And, what I wanted to say about that MVP, I jumped the gun a little bit and forgot the National League Cy Young. But these two guys that won the MVP are really one of the most humblest players on each league that there could be. You got Mike Trout on one side. He's such a natural. And Chris Bryant, he's sort of a mirror image of Trout. And they're both very down to earth people, very thankful for the talent that they have, and always thanking the people around them. Chris Bryant, I was reading a little article before we started the show. His father actually has like an indoor batting cage that he's always worked with him with, and it's just stuff like that. And the work ethic of Mike Trout is just amazing. I follow him in the off season because he's from the South Jersey area, and he's just got this tremendous work ethic of just incredible things that he does to prepare himself for the baseball season. He dedicates his whole life to it. And, two of the best guys in baseball, I think you can find right there with Mike Trout and Chris Bryant, and certainly most successful as well.
And they're so young.
Yeah. Unlike us.
Like, they stole our talent, Rich.
Yeah. But yeah, getting back to Scherzer, I do have the numbers because I'm on the BBWAA website. He got 25 first place votes, so he was a big winner
Oh, okay.
amongst all voters here. And it's interesting the way they report on these votes. It'll actually tell you the writer and who they voted for. So I think that's pretty cool. Over at bbwaa.com. It's not a great website, but they do have the votes broken down for you. And another thing is a lot of these writers are not necessarily just newspaper writers. They're from the web, places like fangraphs.com and other websites. Actually, even a foreign website from Kyoto News, a guy gets the vote for that.
Wow.
He's out of the Chicago chapter of the Baseball Writers Association. And so it's not just your print guys. I used to think that this was primarily all baseball writers that appear in newspapers, but apparently they've spread this out a little bit. And now it's a lot of .com people that are involved in this.
Well, I think they had to. I mean, really, when you think about it, that's really the future. The newspapers are dying, and they've got to go somewhere for these people. And being that a lot of these reporters now are going to blogs and MLB websites and whatnot, I guess they got to draw from somewhere, and that's where to draw from.
Yep. So that's your award winners for 2016. And the Players' Choice Awards will be coming up soon. They're always pretty interesting, voted by their fellow players, who they pick as their, best players, who they feel that are. So we'll be talking about that on a future show of the podcast. And right around the corner, of course, we have Thanksgiving. So we'll be taking next week off in honor of the holiday. And we hope all of our listeners have a great holiday. And listen to our back catalog. If you're new to the show, you like to listen to it, you can find all of our shows over at MLBthisweek.com. You can even listen on video because we record these shows on YouTube. We do it straight out, not like other shows. Sometimes they'll piece in things here and there. We generally stream our show live, so everything that you hear, we record as we go. So
warts and all.
Just like my mistake tonight, I skipped the one thing, but that's the way it goes. We just keep going with it. But listen to the back catalog. Check out our patreon.com site. And you want to listen to more shows, go over to baseballtalkradio.com. That's the home of great baseball talk. Gary has his Mets Musings show there. I have the Fightin' Phillies show. I've been only probably cranking out a show a month, but there's plenty of shows over there beyond that. All kinds of different teams, a couple of Cubs podcasts, Tribe one, and everything in between. You can even listen to some Japanese baseball there and hitting instructors, things like that. So if you're a big baseball fan, check it out over at baseballtalkradio.com.
And if I may, I'd like everybody to check out last week's show because we had a great show last week right here. And we had former Major League pitcher Mark Littell on, and he's got a great new book out called On the Eighth Day God Created Baseball. So go check it out. Check out the show, and then go purchase the book and help him out. We don't make anything on it, but maybe we can get him on the show again if he gets some of our listeners purchasing his book. So, go check it out. Go to Amazon. You can check out that book or go to marklittell.com and take a listen to the show. It was really a lot of fun having him on last week.
Yeah, it was great fun. We heard back from him again, and he really sort of let his hair down. You can tell when certain guests get comfortable talking baseball with you, and he certainly was one of those guys. Just expounded upon a lot of stuff, and brought back some good memories for him
Mhm.
back in the '70s and the early '80s into when he was pitching. But yeah, he was a great guest to have on, and we hope to have a lot more for you throughout this baseball off season. And Gary, I read somewhere tonight there's actually only two seasons in baseball. You got the regular season and winter. The off season.
Yeah, that's great. And we're going to try to make winter go by a little quicker by talking baseball, no matter what anybody else says, right, Rich? We're going to talk baseball through the whole time.
That's it. We're going to keep that hot stove cooking, and that's the next segment of our show. Hot stove baseball. That's what a lot of teams have to look forward to get ready for next season, the 2017 baseball season. Wow, that sounds like a long way away, doesn't it, Gary?
It does, but it's probably going to go a lot quicker than we even realize. And Rich, your team, the Phillies, made a trade already. They're on the board. They got some new blood coming in.
Yes, they do. They acquired kind of an elderly player, if you ask me, uh, from the Dodgers in exchange for two fairly young guys. But I'm not that big of a favor of that trade by the Phillies. Um, they picked up left fielder and second baseman from the Dodgers, Howie Kendrick, who earned $10 million last year. He didn't really get much done last year for the Dodgers, and they were kind of happy to see him go. He's like 33, almost 34 years of age, and that's not terribly old at all, but his skills just seem like they're declining in my book. And a lot of Phillies fans are hoping that he bounces back, has a good season. The Phillies have him for just 1 year so far, but they gave up two players that are younger. Darnell Sweeney, who the Dodgers' original draft pick got him into baseball, but he went different route and ended up with the Phillies. And also a guy named Darren Ruff, which he's got a good home run swing. And the Phillies really never got him into the mix as far as playing every day for them. He'd come up for a month or two, and then they'd send him back down, come up for a month, send him back down. But he's a good player, and I hope he has continued success in LA.
Yeah, it sounds like almost like a deal of convenience in a way. Maybe they wanted some veteran leadership on the team. It's a very young team there in Philly, and maybe they thought Kendricks could help. Played some left field for the Phillies, for the Dodgers last year, and I would think that's probably where they're going to ship him. I don't know if he's gonna, because there's really no infield spots open for him, is there? I don't believe so. They've got that fine young second baseman there. So he's probably going to go left field. Was kind of a blank hole last year, if I recall correctly, for the Phillies. So he'll probably going to fill that spot there, and they're probably going to hope that his leadership in the middle of the lineup somewhere will help the young guys progress a little.
Yeah, he almost had 100 strikeouts last season. Didn't do, very much on the offensive side. He had 146 games in with the Dodgers. But yeah, I would hope to think he's going to be a leader, and that's what the Phillies have sorely needed,
Mhm.
a leader of any kind. You have a young team, as you said, and Cesar Hernandez is the second baseman. Now, there was some talk that he might be moved after the season, but he had the great season that he had last year. So maybe the Phillies have moved on from that feeling, but not so much a rebuild there from the Phillies. That's the talk has been rebuilding the team, and you add some odd pieces to the puzzle. They kept Hellickson as a pitcher. He signed on for a 1 year deal. Took the deal that they offered, 17.2 million. And, you got a couple guys that are on for 1 year. So I guess on a rebuild, you have to be very patient and hope that, this older type players mix in well, become that leadership, and everything gels together. I guess you can't predict that before the season starts. But in other hot stove news, the Atlanta Braves signed a guy that's getting old like us, Gary.
Yeah, they signed Big Sexy Bartolo Colon. In fact, they signed another ex-Met too that's up there in age, R.A. Dickey. So I don't know what the heck they're doing, but I guess they wanted some veteran leadership on the team, and they first signed, as I said, R.A. Dickey, the knuckleballer, was a free agent, and then went out and took Bartolo Colon from the Mets, and we were kind of upset about that. We love Bartolo here in New York, and we were hoping that he would come back again this year because he really saved our bacon last year with the pitching staff with the injuries. But he decided to move on, and the Mets really, I don't know what the workings were, if any. But yeah, so Atlanta, and they're talking about trying to go after trading for Chris Sale. So they're really making a move. I guess they think they've got a chance to contend or something. I don't see it personally. They had a good second half of the year, but I don't know if they're ready to contend in that division, Rich. But apparently they're thinking they are or something.
Yeah, it's a new stadium that they're going to be in Atlanta. So maybe they want to start it off with a bang, so to speak. As you said, they added some pitching. Um, their offense was probably one of the worst last year in the National League. Philly's not being that much better, but yeah, they're going for it at least and giving their fans something to watch for 2017. And who knows, maybe this balance of power will uh, end up in their favor. But as you said, yeah, the big loss for the Mets, Cologne has really stepped in there and anchored that team when needed. And now they might have to find somebody new to pick up that role if they have the injuries like they had last year.
And the thing is, he was a fantastic uh, uh, oh see, I'm getting old. He was the fantastic influence on the younger pitches, and that's probably one of the reasons that Atlanta wanted him. And the innings eater, both him and Dickey will throw a lot of innings. They're good for about 180 190 plus, both of them. So um that could be one thing that they got to anchor that rotation, and to eat up some innings from some of these young guys and give the bullpens a break. But I'm a little confused with what Atlanta's doing, but we were confused, I believe, last year as well with what they were doing. So they're just continuing to bemuse us, I guess. And of course, another big trade made, and it pains me to say this, but probably there's one other team that's really have reshaped themselves so quickly. It's amazing, and that's the New York Yankees. They traded Brian McCann to the Houston Astros with some good prospects. And I guess Houston figures they need some veteran leadership after falling last year, not after winning, getting in the winning wild card game in 2015, and then not making the playoffs in 16. That they probably figured they needed some veteran leadership for a young pitching staff, and they got that McCann and a good left-handed bat, so we'll see how that works out. But the Yankees really have done some job in turning over their roster and all of a sudden getting their prospects up, and they have some good prospects. Of course, Gary Sanchez came up, the young catcher, and really amazed everybody, and that really made McCann expendable. So another big deal that happened, McCann going to Houston.
Yeah, Houston making some nice moves there. And really, a lot of this hot stove action will pick up with the winter meetings. We haven't seen it all yet, A lot more players still available out there, and a lot of other hot stove actions to take place by teams that we haven't heard from. And maybe we'll see something from the Angels. There was rumor uh, during the season last year that they may be shopping Mike Trout, but I just don't see how you could shop a player like that. You don't want to trade a guy like that. You want to kind of keep him on the team for as long as you can, even though they haven't had any success really as a team. Like you said, you got the best player in baseball there for the American League, but you don't have the championship or even playoffs to show for it.
Well, I could see moving him if you can bring back a haul of prospects and guys that are just about ready to go. And but it's got to be a good haul to really make everybody happy about that kind of deal. But look, it's happened in the past, and it could happen again. I'd love to see the Mets try to put together a package, though I don't know if they have the young players enough. I mean, probably they'd ask for a Syndergaard or someone along that lines just to start, and I don't want to give that up. Matt Harvey, I'd give up. But and a couple others, and we've kicked around trades to try to bring Trout here to New York, but and then there was a heavy rumor a couple of weeks ago about the Yankees, and they have some prospects, but I don't see them getting into that right now. I think they want their prospects to play and see what they have, and just don't know where we would play in New York at all. And of course, now their name came up again in the Yoenis Cespedes stakes, as he is a free agent. And they said now they have money, they could perhaps go after Cespedes. I like you said, Rich, it's going to heat up even more at the winter meetings, and as always, they're going to be very exciting and very interesting to keep an eyeball on to see what goes on and who goes where and what the heck else goes on. Yeah.
Yeah, and just looking at Mike Trout's contract here with the Angels, this is when the big money starts kicking in for him. The 2017 season, he starts earning 20 million in 2017, and then 18, 19, and 20, he's due 34 million a season, each season for 3 seasons. So the meat of the contract is coming up. If the Angels wanted to save money, and as you said, Gary, take in a haul for him, now would be the time to do it. And then whoever picks him up will be paying the bulk of that $144 million contract. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I don't know. I don't know if you want to be a GM and trade a guy like Mike Trout, who's only, as you said, going to be 25 in 2017, and he's just about a shoe in, just a hair away from being a Hall of Fame type caliber player right now.
Yeah, that's true. And the beauty of that contract, though, is he's one of the few that you'd pay 34 million for, but he's right in his prime.
Exactly. Yeah, that would be the thing, and you might even want to extend him if you were a team that happened to be as lucky to pick
Right.
him up. Give him a 10-year deal, sort of like Texas did with Alex Rodriguez. I think it was 252 million back then. 25 million a season, though. I think inflation and all, Trout will get more now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, some team out there could stand to benefit if the Angels happen to jettison him for a lot of players. I don't think it's going to happen, but like you said, stranger things have happened.
And he would look good in blue and orange.
Or red and white pinstripes. And he lives close to Philadelphia. He wouldn't have to drive very far to get down to his home.
You mean for the away games? The away games in Philadelphia when the Mets play him.
I'll tell you, if I were him, I probably wouldn't off season in South Jersey. I'd have to pick a nice tropical location in order to do that.
That's for sure. But he likes to do the weather reports on the Weather Channel. So,
Yeah, we'll have that to look forward to. Well, that's going to just about wrap up tonight's show. And I'd like to give our email addresses out. One of the toughest things we've found in trying to contact other shows is finding out how to contact them. So if you want to write Gary a message, he's Gary at baseballtalkradio.com. And if you want to send one to me, I'm Rich at baseballtalkradio.com. So send us an email if you have a comment, a voicemail, something like that you want to record. Just send it in to us. And we want to wish our holiday greetings to all of our listeners out there, whether you're new or you've been with us from the beginning. Drop us an email. We'd like to know where you listen from.
yeah, and a happy Thanksgiving to everybody, Rich, and to you as well, and the missus.
Thank you very much. And right back to you and yours. So we will talk to you within the first week of December, right after the Turkey Day holiday. And then we get ready for even more holidays. The holiday season will be upon us. Black Friday, all that shopping and all that stuff, getting ready for Christmas, New Year's, and Hanukkah and everything else. So, guys, have a great holiday, and we'll talk to you again on the next edition of the Baseball Talk Radio Show.